The film was born out of my anger and my frustration of not being able to know the love story of my parents because they died when I was a kid. And I think that while making the film, somehow it ended up being a liberation, or it freed myself because it gave me the opportunity to create the images that I was lacking.
There is a particular kind of grief that comes not from losing someone, but from never fully knowing them. In Romería, a young woman travels home in search of the story of the parents she barely knew. What begins as a practical journey into family history becomes something more mysterious, an encounter with memory, silence, and the parts of the past that families cannot always bring themselves to name. Directed by Carla Simón, whose summer 1993 and Alcarràs established her as one of contemporary cinema's more sensitive chroniclers of family life, Romería returns to deeply personal terrain while opening into a larger history of Spain and a generation shaped by freedom, loss, and silence. It is a film about the secrets families keep, the shame they struggle to reconcile, and the fragile beauty of imagining a past where the truth arrives only in fragments. Join us for a conversation with writer-director Carla Simón on Inside the Art House, starting now. Today's episode of Inside the Art House is sponsored by the Carsey Wolf Center.
Hi, my name is Greg Lumley.
And I'm Raphael Sparge.
And thank you for joining us for today's episode of Inside the Art House. Today we are joined by filmmaker Carla Simón. She's coming to us from Barcelona, to talk about her new film. It's her third feature, Romería, which is going to be opening June 26th in New York and rolling out following weekend, July 1st in Los Angeles, and then to art houses around the country through the summer. Carla, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Carla, it's such a beautiful movie. I watched it twice, and I was really knocked out by it and the journey. Romería is really about a young woman trying to understand where she comes from, and it's also about what happens perhaps when the past refuses to give you answers. And was the journey of making this film a way of creating some memories, maybe where there were gaps for you with your parents?
Yes, totally. Actually, the film was born out of my anger and my frustration of not being able to know the love story of my parents because they died when I was a kid, so I couldn't ask them what I needed to know about them. And I think that while making the film, somehow it ended up being a liberation, or it freed myself because it gave me the opportunity to create the images that I was lacking. No, so it's the film about memory and how memory works and how sometimes you try to appropriate from the memories from the others, no, through their narrative. But memory is very selective, very subjective. You cannot trust it. And when I try to put the pieces together, they never fit. Also, my parents died of AIDS, and when you have some deaths because of AIDS or heroin related, there is a taboo, a stigma, a lot of secrets, that make these memories even more difficult to access. So somehow, the journey of Marina is to be able to imagine a possible story for her parents that gave me the opportunity to create these images that I was lacking.
Is there something uniquely Spanish, I guess, about the film or about this tendency? I mean, we've seen movies where people are searching for information about things that happened during the Spanish Revolution and the Civil War, and it's not talked about. And now you're, again, this sort of idea that because that some of these subjects are taboo and we're simply not talking about it, even among family, especially among family, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are pretty bad with historical memory in Spain, and this is also a historical memory, because the generation who were young during the 80s in Spain, a lot of them died. A lot of people know people who died at this time. So they were young, or kids born and raised during the dictatorship of Franco, with a lot of repression, and then suddenly they became adults when freedom arrived, and it was a happy moment. They had really full and playful youths, no? But it had this kind of B-side, because a lot of drugs came into the country, a lot of heroin. We had what was called the heroin crisis in Spain, and they didn't know the consequences of it, no? And there is this theory that the government didn't do much to stop the entry of heroin, because while young people were into drugs, they were not into politics somehow. And then obviously AIDS arrived, I believe in this theory because really it was pretty big, and Spain ended up being the country with the highest rate of AIDS in Europe. So it was a big, big thing. And I realized with my first film, which was about my childhood, that, when it came out in theaters in Spain, a lot of people came to me telling me, this is my story. So I realized that, that trying to recover the memories of my parents was not only for me, that it was actually something that we as orphans of this period needed to do in a kind of a collective way, and also to shine some light in their stories, somehow.
In terms of your filmography, did you feel it was important to start with the story of your life as a young girl? The film referencing summer 1993, beautiful film. Mm-hmm. Recommend that everybody find it if they can. But that's your story, or a story of a 6-year-old girl who's lost her mother, who's going to live with family. And the challenge of adjusting to that new life, but also adjusting perhaps to issues of abandonment from her father. Did you see it as important to start with yourself as a young girl, rather than starting with this story of you as a young woman trying to search?
Yes, I guess so. Actually, summer 1993 explored the side of my family that I knew the most, because it was my family, my biological mom's family, which is the same one as my adoptive dad's family, because they were siblings, no? Mm-hmm. So somehow it was trying to explore my childhood, how I lived it, and in relationship to all this family. Then Alcarràs, which is my second film, talks about my adoptive mom's family who grow peaches in a small village in Catalonia. And this is a family that I obviously know very well because I've been there all the summers and Christmas and, in my holidays. But it needed a lot of research because it's a world that I was not raised in, let's say, no? And then Romería talks about the third branch of my family, which is my biological dad's family, which is the one that I know the less, because I met them, or I recontact them when I was a teenager. But at the same time, it's the one that I was most curious because I didn't know much about them.
It's interesting. That's a good segue, because talking about the family that you don't know as well, and trying to get information about the father that you don't know so well. There's a beautiful little clip from early in the film. Let's take a look at that. So this is a clip from Carla Simón's film, Romería.
Ahí vivían mis padres, ¿no? En ese edificio alto, en Toralla, ¿no? Creo.
¿Estuviste investigando?
Sí. Bueno, es lo que leí en el diario de mi madre.
Estuvieron ahí, en el edificio que hay frente a... Mira, que estoy feo.
¡Oh, no!
Es verdad, ¿eh?
¡Hola!
Tiene 4 años. Míralo, madre mía.
¡Hola, esquivar!
No, en Toralla imposible. Porque tus padres vivieron como bastante tiempo ahí, en el edificio que está frente a la playa de Samil, como 2 o 3 años. Hasta que, tu madre se quedó embarazada.
No, pero mi madre se quedó embarazada en Barcelona.
No, fue aquí. De hecho, la idea era que criarte aquí, en Vigo. Pero tu madre quiso volverse sí o sí a Barcelona, y ahí fue cuando se separaron.
Pero ellos se separaron cuando Fon enfermó, ¿no?
No, eso fue mucho antes. Fue antes.
Esto está en el
¿Qué hace? ¿Qué quema? Estate quieto. No, para. ¿Qué está haciendo?
Toma.
¿Verdad que sus padres vivieron en Playa Samil?
No sé, solamente estuvimos una vez.
Bueno, una vez, igual tú estuviste una vez. Yo estuve varias veces y precisamente sé que es en Samil. No, pero
Niños,
me
por
enfada.
favor.
Please consider subscribing to Inside the Art House and take a second to like, comment, and share. It's the best way to support the show and help more people discover the conversations with the filmmakers you love. You can also listen to Inside the Art House on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.
Hi, I'm Raphael Sparch, co-host of Inside the Art House, and we're thrilled that this episode is sponsored by the Carcy Wolf Center at the University of California, Santa Barbara. The Carcy Wolf Center supports research, teaching, and public programming about film and media, reflecting the vision of their founding benefactors, Marcy Carcy and Dick Wolf. The center's goal is to foster informed dialogue, critical skills, historical understanding, and new forms of literacy for a global and interconnected world. The center also presents free public screening events and conversations with filmmakers and scholars in the beautiful Pollock Theater at UCSB. Head over to their newly launched YouTube channel at Carcy Wolf UCSB to watch recordings of their most recent conversations. Highlights include a conversation with UCSB alum Andy Jurgensen, the winner of the 2026 Academy Award for Editing for One Battle After Another, or the recent panel on the future of moviegoing featuring Jason Reitman, Brad Sieberling, Maggie McKay, and Jackie Brenneman. Find out more at carcywolf.ucsb.edu.
I mean, it's really a mystery story at some level, and trying to understand, are people just not remembering things that happened 15 years ago, which is certainly understandable, or are they trying to hide things?
Yes, it's a question through like a kind of family tour, no, to understand and to get some answers. And she realizes that that it's difficult that they match because everyone remembers differently, and it happens in general, because memory works in this strange way that we don't remember the fact that we remember the last time that we remember something. So somehow it keeps changing and transforming in our head in a way that we end up believing that this is what happened, but it's also in relation to our emotion, so sometimes we can just cope in a certain way with some painful memories that make us transform them in a way that we don't realize. So it's not that we are lying about something, it's just that we end up believing that it was like that because we need to believe that it was like that somehow, no? And then slowly we kind of ended up changing the story, no? So this happened a lot when I tried to recover my parents' memory, and it made me kind of study memory deeply to understand how it works. And I realized that it's something that you cannot rely so much, and that I, it kind of liberated me, because at the end it's okay. So even if my parents were alive, maybe their versions of the things we wouldn't match. You know what I mean?
You used your mother's actual journals or letters, I guess, in the making of this, and then there's an extraordinary transition that I don't want to give away, but essentially there is an experience of your parents that you kind of created, and as you deal with past and present. How did that affect you in the making of it, or even in the cutting of it, and or now the seeing of it? What has that done to your memory of your parents?
I mean, the letters that my mom wrote to her friends and family, that it's something that I collected a long time ago. For me, it's even, I would say, one of the reasons of that the film exists, basically, no? Because, it's what gave me a most, valuable information about her youth, because the way that she talks about these letters is, I could hear her, because when you write a letter, it's something very intimate, and also it's written in a kind of old-fashioned Catalan or way of speaking because it's from the 80s, no? And then she talks about my father, about her friends, about music, books, films, about her relationship to drugs and to work. And, it's a kind of a generational portrait almost, the way that she speaks about her youth and the way of living, like it gave me a lot of information on the way that they would kind of, they were living in the present and kind of flowing all the time, and it was very interesting youth. So for me, when I read them, at that time when I discovered them, I tried to make a short film where I went to the places where my mom wrote these letters from, and I shot it just with my video camera. But I felt that the text and the letters were so powerful that I needed to make better images for them, no? So that's why when I made Romería, I could find a way to kind of give the right or the images that they deserved somehow to these letters, no?
I talk to us about the casting process. I mean, especially in a situation where you're bringing on actors to portray people who are truly within your life. What is it that you're looking for?
Yeah, I always try to look for people who are very similar to the characters that I wrote. So in that case, it was super important that Marina was Catalan, no, from Barcelona. That all the actors were from Galicia, from the other side of Spain. That knew some stories about these deaths, no, and that they had even lived some stories that they were close to them, no, and I made a mix between non-actors and professional actors because Lucia, we met her on a street casting, so it was the first time that
you saw
she
3,000 actresses. I read.
Yes, we saw a lot because it was difficult. She had to play two roles in one, and most of the girls were good for just one of them, no? So we did a lot of auditions, and she was very close to Marina, to the main character, but I could see that she also had some other part that she could play also a mom, no? So it was a long process to find her and also to compose the whole family, because this is something that you cannot think of who you pick as an aunt or an uncle if you don't think with the whole ensemble, no? So it was complicated. We saw a lot of people, and at the end, the grandma was not an actress. One of the uncles was not an actor. Marina was not an actress. Mitch, so the cousin couple, he's a musician, so it was a mix between them and professional actors. But all of them had something to do with the characters, or at least they knew them somehow, no? So it was in their world that they were portraying someone that was close to them somehow.
And then I read that you spent 3 months rehearsing with the family that you picked. What did you do? I'm a theater actor. I'm used to rehearsing, a month or two on a play, but never have I heard of a film essentially taking the time to really spend 3 months building those relationships. What did you do?
Because I just feel that, filming family is something very intimate, family relationships, we have them since we are born. They have a long history, a lot of common memories, so when you go into a set and you say, okay, that's your father, for me, it's very difficult, what you are asking to an actor, because they don't feel it yet. But if you spend enough time together, and what we do is to improvise moments that could have happened before the story that we are going to shoot. So in that case, we spent a lot of time together improvising moments that could have happened in the 80s. So we had a lot of moments with the couple, but also with the family. Even if the family didn't interact with them in the 80s, it was very important that they spent time together and they understood who was these people that they lose, no? So they all have an image of Fawn and of Marina's parents in their head, no? And then we also did the same with the 2000s. So we created a lot of family dynamics to understand the role in the family for each one, no? So in a way, you know, the grandfather told me once that the actor who plays the grandfather, he told me that he had never acted or worked so much for such a small role, no? But that at the same time, he felt that he was loving all these grandchildren now, no? Because we had to spend time together and he really cared for them. So for me, that's important, no? That you can obviously pretend that you love each other when you are acting, but you can also feel it. And if you get to work together enough and to play enough, that you feel it for real, I think that it's something that comes across when you are in front of the camera in the shooting. And also it gives me the possibility to give some room of improvisation, that we follow the script, but if I want the actors to improvise, whatever they say, it always belongs to the universe that we created together, no? So it makes sense. It's always right if we've have done this work previously.
It's just so great. I mean, just to have that luxury of that time. I mean, often...
Right, but it's different from, again, working with non-actors. I'm thinking of Mike Lee, who provides these elaborate backstories to his actors, but they're actors, so they know how to take that backstory and create character. You kind of have to say, we're not going to work on the script, we're not going to work on your line readings, we're not going to block anything, we're just going to create, you're brothers, so I'm going to give you some scenarios where you behave like brothers.
Yeah. Basically.
And then when it comes time to film a scene, you'll behave like brothers.
Yes.
Is that sort of it?
Yes. Yes, usually, what happens if the cast is well done, in a very organic way, it already happens what I want them to do. You know what I mean? It's like if they are already a little bit the characters, the dynamics are very easily created, no? But obviously, instead of sitting down and telling them all their background, I believe a lot in emotional memory. So I believe that if we improvise these moments and they feel it, this stays with you somehow in your body, So when we are doing the shooting, all this may come out or not, but at least it's there, somehow. It's a bit mystical, but I like it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you feel the depth and the breadth of
relation,
years and years and years. I mean, decades, lives come through in simple moments, and that's really clear. I mean, even in the scene we just watched, right, the beach scene where they're playing and they're making cooking the fish, and just that the activity of a family that feels so real and so active. I don't ever, these things don't happen very often because people just don't take that time. They don't understand how important that is for the actor, and ultimately how that translates to the film.
No, obviously you have to have actors who are up for it. You know what I mean? In terms of that they are open to play with that, and also understanding that it's the way to go when you mix professional actors and non-professional actors. But in any case, even if they were only professional actors, I would do something similar. Maybe you need less time or you can do it a little bit faster, but still, I think that going through that and understanding the character while playing, because sometimes these improvisations that we do can last hours, sometimes okay, we are in this house, now you are family, and I will be there. I film all the time with my handycam, and I keep giving directions, and sometimes it's your character wouldn't do that. Maybe you should do that, no? And I try to create little conflicts between them. So it's very fun. This is my favorite part of the whole process, because it's like playing to be God while you are kind of shaping a whole family, And I think that it's fun for the actors as well, because they get to go through all these at the beginning without fully understanding what we are doing, but little by little they discover it, and at the end it's very solid, the characters and the relationship that we've created.
Oh my God. I mean, you probably know this, but when as an actor and I walk on a set with a full crew on a film, if I have say like The Grandfather, maybe a 5-day part or something, I feel like I'm going on to their set and I'm a guest, or even whatever is worse than a guest. I don't know, like a sort of a third cousin once removed, and I'm sort of coming in, and is it okay? And can I sit over here? You know, there's a kind of an awkwardness. But what you've done is you've created a world. You've created a sort of a circle of intimacy, as you say, with the family. And then what it has to feel like those actors is that the crew is coming to their set, and then like basically then they're participating in this life that they've discovered and are bringing.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. It's just a wonderful process.
For me, it's like a film. It's a little bit like the top of an iceberg. You know what I mean? It's like we're seeing this, but everything that is behind or under, it's very important to create, to work in depth with something. You know, it's like obviously you can work in a more superficial way, and you will also get the film. But for me, if I go into a process, it's also to kind of try things out, no? And also I like when I am in the shooting to be surprised somehow, you know, and to give some room to the actors to surprise me. And I think that this happens if we've created this, because if I don't kind of drive all this, the surprises will not fit, you know. But when you've done that, they fit.
Right. And the camera catches the spontaneous moments, and those have to be sort of set up in a way, which you've done. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, let's take a look at the trailer for the film, so we see a little bit more than just a clip. This is the film Romería, directed by our guest, Carla Simón.
Marina, bienvenida, por fin.
Ahí vivían mis padres, ¿no? En ese edificio alto.
¿Estuviste investigando?
Sí. Madre mía, la misma constitución que tu madre. Qué calcomanía.
¿Y por qué has tardado tanto en venir a visitarnos?
Bé, molt simpàtics. N'hi ha una mica guapo.
Yo siempre me imaginé que aquí es donde escondían a tu padre.
¿Qué?
¿No lo sabías?
¿Cómo que escondieron?
Es que cuando murió tu padre en el 92...
Mi padre murió en el 87, no en el 92, cuando yo era bebé.
Tu padre no murió en el 87. ¿Quién te ha dicho eso?
Una época muy chula, ¿no?
Hasta que tu madre se quedó embarazada.
Bueno, a ver, tus abuelos son hostia. Tú ya los has conocido más o menos, ¿no? Pero es una cosa que se hacía mucho antes, ¿sabes? Todo el mundo moría por la puerta de atrás. Pero bueno, sí se querían, sí.
It's great. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I really wanted to show. I mean, the film is, in addition to everything, the beautiful acting and the complex and storyline is just also beautiful to look at. How did you manage that, though? Not that it's impossible, but how did you work with your cinematographer and understanding that you had this sort of loose set of guidelines for non-professional cast members but also to manage just these amazing shots?
Well, Hélène Luba, who was the cinematographer, she's great, and I had been willing to work with her for a long time. So we had a lot of conversations, first of all, on the way that we were going to shoot this family, because I was coming from making two films that the camera was one more member in the family somehow. But this time Marina was an outsider. It was another kind of family. So I wanted to be colder somehow, or more distant. So the camera needed to be more staged somehow. And I was worried at the beginning on how you work with actors, when the camera is a little bit more staged. But with Hélène, we worked a lot on ways to do that, to have this feeling of more distance, but at the same time to give some room for the actors to be themselves. And also, we spent a lot of time also rehearsing in locations with the actors. So we made sure that the blocking was coming from them, not only from us, no? So I think that this also makes a difference. And then we talked a lot about there is these two parts in the film, and the more kind of poetic or imagine or onirical part. This was a matter of trying to portray the images that I had on my mind, no, that were less realistic, let's say, and we tried to find kind of like almost another, because there is this feeling of a film in the film, so another kind of texture and colors and poetry for this part, that it's about the parents and it had to be more playful and close to them, so it was something else, no?
I wonder if you could also just explain the title. The Romería is a pilgrimage. It's also a festival. And how did you meld those two into the themes of the film?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I knew the word Romería, for me, it's very related to my mom, because I knew that she loved to go to the Romerías in the south of Spain, which are these kind of pilgrimages that are very religious, basically, but that also people go for party, and she went there for party. So it was a kind of like this idea of spiritual journey fit the film very well, because at the end Marina is doing this kind of journey to her origins, no? And then I discovered that in the north of Spain, the word meant local festivity. So a romería is when you go to your village festivity, basically, no? So for me, this meaning of celebration also fit the film, because at the end I feel that it wants to be a celebration of my parents' life somehow, no? And their generation in general. Mm-hmm.
Well, also a celebration, I guess, of you finding yourself. I mean, and the film is very particular, I understand, in terms of your story. But look, we're all trying to understand where we've come from, and if there are conflicts with our parents, we're trying to understand where they came from so that we can sort of accept them. And specifically within the context of the film, there's actually a specific need that you're looking for in terms of an acknowledgement. But I just want to let the audience know that, I mean, I think this is a very universal movie, regardless of the specifics. I think, it's absolutely something that we all go through, certainly especially at that age, perhaps, as we're, becoming a young adult, but even later. Not just a pitch for therapy.
Yes, right. Yeah.
It's so much less money to buy a ticket to see a movie than to go to a therapist.
Yes, well, not to make the film, because a lot of people ask me that, and I say, like, well, if I wanted to do therapy, I would go to the psychology, because making a film is a lot more expensive.
It's a lot more expensive.
Yes.
She is the main character is a filmmaker, or she self-professes as I'm a filmmaker, and you, of course, have said that cinema has sort of saved you, or kind of been your way through, and trying to sort of connect the dots with using memory in cinema, and again, this autobiographical element of how you sort of reconstruct the past and give it a harmony is remarkable, and again, it's so personal.
Yes. Yeah, I realized that, the thing that she wants to become a filmmaker, it's not something that was there from the beginning of the script, but at some point I realized that it was crucial to underline her research. And also because I think I've always asked myself, like, would have I, investigated this part of my family if it was not because I'm a filmmaker? Or even, would I be a filmmaker if it was not because of my family story, and I don't have an answer, because I didn't live another life. But in any case, everything is very related, I think that my love for stories also comes because of my background, and it's something that it's very linked somehow.
The other question I have on that is just how is it played at home? I mean, how is it played in Spain? How have audiences received this? Yeah.
Yes, in Spain, it was, it was curious because I did a lot of Q&As, and there's always someone in the room saying, this is my dad's story, my uncle's, or the friend of my mom, or this happened to me, so it was interesting to see that it kind of opened up this conversation about this generation, inviting people to talk about these memories again and all about these people who died, basically. And I think that we are at a moment that we need to review this a little bit. So some books came out as well about this issue and about this generation. So I think that enough time happened to kind of put this on the table again. And I think that, because I was thinking, why is it now that we are talking about that, no? And I think that it also has to do with the fear we have of the rise of the right wing, somehow. Because these people were the ones trying to change all these values from the Spanish society. And then suddenly, it's a moment that we give value to them somehow. Of what they did.
Right, it honors them. It honors their journey and their struggles and their complexity and there's no value judgment. There's no right and wrong. There's just there's the messiness of life and us trying to find our way. And you honor that so beautifully.
In terms of the future, you've now sort of made 3 films, I guess, that are focused on the past, on your past. Are you still exploring this, or are we moving,
I'm moving on.
on into the future?
Yes. Yeah, I think that it's not, that it was a happy coincidence somehow that, when I was in Cannes with Romería, I was pregnant of my second child, and she was born at the same time that we premiered the film. So somehow I feel that now that I created my own family, it's also a way to look to the future and leave the past behind somehow. So I'm preparing a flamenco musical. Oh. What has nothing to do with what I've done before, but it's a world that I really want to explore, that it's new to me, and and it feels like the right moment to explore something that is not my life. My family will be happy too.
That's right. Enough looking at us. Leave us alone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't
Well,
wait.
It's a rare opportunity when U.S. audiences get to develop a relationship with a foreign filmmaker over multiple films. And we are very lucky that both your first 2 films were released in the United States. I'm very proud that we played both of them. That they're available for audiences, and certainly that we get to grow with you and learn from you over these coming these films and hopefully more to come. So good luck with that, and we're really excited to see. But in the meantime, again, the film is Romería. It's directed by our guest here on Inside the Art House, Carla Simón, and it's going to be released in the United States by Janus Films. You can hopefully get information on where the film is playing on their website, but it will be opening June 26th in New York at the Film Forum and the Film Society of Lincoln Center, and then July 1 in Los Angeles at Laemmle Theaters, and following that, again, at theaters around the country. So please check your calendars at your local art house or wherever you see and find foreign language films, because you do want to watch this film.
Don't miss it. Yeah, for sure. And if you like today's episode, please like and subscribe and find us again. We love supporting filmmakers like Carla, and by doing so, you help us do so. Thanks so much.
Carla, thank you again for being our guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Right.